Hey guys, welcome back to Games of War. Back once again. As you can see, I've got a full house with me. We've got Big Mike back on camera after how long of an absence?
Oh, gee, I don't think I've been on YouTube now for over a year and a half, at least. At least a year and a half.
Yeah, it's been a while,
It's
man.
crazy.
Big Mike has got one of the best game rooms ever. He was from Chargeback Forward. Happy to have him here. He came over, spent the night. We did some game hopping, game hunting, played some games, some Bomberman.
Yeah.
Badass.
I just gotta say, it was kind of weird. Like, I spent the night here, and I woke up at 2 in the morning, and do you always, like, stand on the edge and just kind of stare at people when they sleep over? I just want to... Okay,
shit. Cut the camera. We got Zach in the house. My son Zach hasn't made an appearance since, I think, 2011. So, Zach, say hi to the people.
Hey, it's nice to be back.
Indeed. So, we've got a stack of games here. We went to about 3 retro stores yesterday. It was kind of a bust for me, personally. Big Mike got some stuff. But we hit the flea market today, which is my local watering hole, a good spot to be. And we got some good stuff there. Worked out some good deals. So, we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for watching. Alright, so starting things off, Big Mike's going to take it away. He got some Sega CD games to share.
Alright, so first of all, it's hard to imagine. Like, I've already got like something like 90 Sega CD games, and I can still find some I'm missing. So I was able to get Black Hole Assault, which I know was an awful game, but we talked about it before. Cinematics and soundtrack is all that matters for this one.
Yeah, that was my first Sega CD game ever.
Dungeon Explorer. See, I have the two, Part 1 and Part 2 for the TurboGrafx. Never had the Sega CD version, and I was pleasantly surprised when we popped this in to find out that is actually more of like its own unique game, not just a complete remake of the TurboGrafx games.
Yeah, that was a fun game. Multi-tap. I'm going to have to get a multi-tap for that because that looks like it's going to be fun.
And finally picked up Lodestar. And now this one's got a funny history because it's made by Rocket Science Games. If anyone remembers those, and you probably shouldn't, those guys were notorious for caring more about production values than actual gameplay, and it definitely shows in this. But it's a piece of video game history, so we got to own it.
Yeah, that's got a really ambitious script and some acting. I thought it was hilarious. Gameplay, that's another story. All right, Zach picked up some games here, some PlayStation 1 originals he's been looking for. So, Zach, take it away.
I picked up Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero. It's not a good game, but...
Yeah. Interesting. It's like an adventure game tailored on the Mortal Kombat engine, and Big Mike tried it, I tried it. We didn't make it too far, but he was after it.
But I can say one thing: the cutscenes, like the acting in these cutscenes, still better than any Adam Sandler movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, hey,
that's a positive. See, always you gotta look glass half full, brother. Glass half full.
That's true.
I picked up Tenchu Stealth Assassins. It's a fun game. Not too much of a draw distance, so it's a very dark game. It's really fun to play though.
Yeah, it's funny, those early games, the draw distance, you can kind of see it filling in on the fly, you know. But that was one of the first examples of stealth that I ever experienced, you know. So yeah, you can't go wrong with that one.
And the last one I got was Diablo. It's considered a classic. It doesn't hold up too well. It's a great game though.
The third one was pretty good. Did you like the Diablo games?
You know what? I've never played them because I've always like shunned away from like PC style RPGs. It wasn't until like I started getting into BioWare stuff that I finally realized that I've been ignorant all these years.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely have to hold on. I definitely have to try and put it in my pile. Definitely have to try it.
Yeah, you know that's one of those games where it's kind of better in the memory than when I saw it again. But you know, like you said, it's still a classic. You know. All right, now I found some Genesis games at the Fleet myself. One I've been after for quite some time, more of a curiosity than anything, was Toxic Crusaders. I remember the cartoon from back in the day, and I wanted to try the game. It's a 2-player game. It seems pretty good, pretty average beat-em-up fare. Mike, did you play this one at all?
I never did. I remember there was a... It's funny you mentioned the cartoon series, because I remember before, wasn't there a movie series line before that, right? Because the movie was, as far as I remember, not meant for kids, but they...
Yep.
Like,
I do remember that.
Like almost like the Ninja Turtles. So the Ninja Turtle comic wasn't for kids, and they found money in the kids' license.
Yeah, so I'll have to give this a try with Zach. Play some 2-player. Now this one I was really excited to get. I've been after it for a while, and I've watched the price just kind of go up and up and up and up. And I got it for a really good deal. I'm amassing quite the Genesis shooter collection, and this is a proud entry into the series for sure. I was able to grab a copy of Biohazard Battle, and correct me if I'm wrong, was this not like from the guys that did Echo the Dolphin? Was that? I believe it...
You know what? I think it actually might have been...
Anyway, it's a great, unique shooter, kind of like an insect theme going on, and different bug-inspired levels. I guess it'll sit next to Calibri as kind of an oddity and something interesting to play. So I'm glad to have this one.
It's a wonderful box art too.
For sure. And another example of like a totally unique soundtrack. Just crazy shit going on. Also on the Genesis, Rings of Power and Starflight. And this is an example of early Electronic Arts just going in with full creativity. This was actually Naughty Dog, an early Naughty Dog work. But the publishing side and EA developing this one, I mean, both of these games have instruction manuals that are just like novels full of story, backstory, character description, and deep gameplay. These games literally would last me till I'm 100 if I played them both. But really happy to have these on the Genesis. Mike, did you ever play either of these?
I have not, and I got super jealous when I saw you with them too, because like I said, bringing back the it's because I stole one game so much. But just like you said, like the old EA stuff. I know EA is like everyone's punching bag right now, but it really is when you look back and see what they were like doing multiple like different genres and really went full force with their artwork and the books and everything was just. It really was a different time. It's like I always say, like the 16-bit era was like the renaissance of gaming.
Yeah.
And this like games like this just kind of is a fuel for my fire just to add to that.
Yeah, EA will never be back to this level, unfortunately. And then finally on the Genesis, Dynamite Heady, another treasure classic, bright, vibrant, a lot of fun to play, crazy, zany, all the above.
Yeah. You can basically, like, when you say the word treasure, you can have this checklist of all the crazy things that they want to put in a game, and it's got literally all of them plus more.
Yeah, it's definitely treasured through and through, for sure, so happy to have this one.
Alright, next I actually picked up some Nintendo stuff here. Finally got Snake's Revenge on the NES. This is actually not a sequel to Metal Gear, as Konami wanted you to believe at the time. Kojima did not approve of this game. The actual real Metal Gear 2 is only on the MSX, and I believe the special edition of Metal Gear Solid 3 on the PlayStation 2. So this is actually like a really, really awful, it's licensed but totally non-approved game. But it's nice to finally have it.
Ben, I bet you Kojima just wants to erase that, doesn't he?
It's amazing. Konami's been pissing off Kojima since the day he started there. I don't know why he's leaving. How could you ever, you know?
Yes, he's finally caught up with him.
They wanted to fire him the second he showed up, and so I finally got Lion King for the Super NES as well. I've had the Genesis version, but the SNES version I've always wanted as well, because the soundtrack on this version is really, really good.
Classic movie too. That's
and super hard game too. Like that whole scene when you're trying to figure out the giraffes when you're the cub, like
Man, I miss Disney games, man. I really do.
Back when they were really good back then, when Virgin and Capcom were doing them. I got the Super Nintendo version of Maximum Carnage. This is actually a guilty pleasure of mine, because I know LJN's got it's got the LJN curse there. But I actually really enjoyed this beat 'em up, and it helps that Green Jelly did the soundtrack. Now, I'm an old man, as you can tell by all the gray going through my beard here. I remember Green Jelly when they came out, and to have both of their albums. I'm sure 99.9% of you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, so you're going to have to look that up after I talk about it. But just do me, seriously, look up Green Jelly, and either you'll thank me or hate me for it.
Yeah.
And got the Super Nintendo version of Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters. Again, this is a game Konami released on NES, Genesis, and Super Nintendo, and all three systems got their own different version. So the only one I'm missing now is the NES one. Now I finally have Super Nintendo and the Genesis version. This is actually... not too bad of a fighting game, believe it or not. The fighting engine isn't as good as a Street Fighter, but it's definitely very, very colorful, and the graphics are fantastic on this.
Yeah, it looks good, for sure. Alright, Zach's got another pile of games for you.
Next, I picked up Bloodborne, and I'm a huge fan of the Souls series. I really like this one. It was the one I played the least, though. It didn't hold my interest as much, but I still put 50 hours into it. But I don't think I'm going to be going back to it anytime soon. The one thing that bothered me about it is I just felt like there was less options. Whereas the other Soul games, you had a lot of different character choices, a lot of different weapons, this one kind of had a little less of that. And I don't want to call it a disappointment because I still love the game, but I definitely wish it would have been bigger.
Yeah, the Chalice dungeons I keep hearing is like a point of contention with those. I know you didn't really enjoy those all that much.
I wonder if that's a point where it's because it's the first, well, not the first in the series, but it's their first next generation title, that they were under a certain deadline, and maybe the next one they'll include all the stuff that maybe they missed out on this one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They pushed it back a month, so they must have been rushing because.
Right. No, if you wanted to see, do you want to see a new Bloodborne? Do you want to see another Dark Souls or another Demon Souls? If you had to choose.
Actually, I'd probably go with a new IP altogether. I feel like they've definitely ran the Souls course. The next I picked up The Witcher 3. I didn't play too much of the second one, but I really, really loved the third one. It's a lot of fun. I love the combat, but it is a little glitchy. That's my only problem with it.
Yeah, well, watching him play that, I gotta say, if you're looking for like a nice open world Western RPG, man, that's the game to get. It's probably the most impressive in terms of storytelling, voice acting, the overall world. Beautiful game. That's a lot of fun. Big Mike, you gonna get that one?
I will eventually. Actually, I really like the developers, and I like how they're so open and honest with their fans. Like there's been several interviews with the guys in charge who just, they say things that would make guys like EA and Konami just crap their pants when they're really telling you how it is and how they're working with the hardware and how they don't want to release a game until it's 100% finished, and they understand there's always going to be problems. And it goes to show you, like I said, Western developers have gotten actually really good over the past few years, and those guys, I believe, are Polish as well. So European developers are, they've been making computer games before, North America even cared about computer games. So, they really got it down pat, and I think Witcher 3 really shows it.
Yeah. Alright, so I picked up some really cool PS1 stuff at the Flea. I was really excited to find this stuff. It must have been a collector that just offed his collection because the cases are pristine, discs are mint, manuals flawless. The first one I found was Klanoa, and I'm such a big fan of this series in general. I've never owned the PlayStation original. I've got the Wii remake of sorts, and I've got the Game Boy games and the second one on the PS2, but this is my first time owning the original PlayStation version. Very happy to have it in this kind of condition. Just a fantastic game.
It really is, and it came out at a time where platformers were kind of abundant, like with the N64 having a platformer every other time and all that, and it really stood out with the whole 2.5D.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of that presentation style. Next up I've got Koudelka, and my passion for the Shadow Hearts series is what kind of led me to purchasing this game. Love the Shadow Hearts games, some of my favorite RPGs in the PS2, and everybody had been telling me, have you played Koudelka? It's like in the same universe and sharing characteristics, so I had to pick this up. I haven't put too much time into it yet, but it's kind of like a survival horror, tank controls-ish early PS1 game, or not early, but in terms of the way it controls, it feels like a lost era of tank control gaming, and I love the atmosphere, so I'm excited to play some more Koudelka. Now, did you play this, Big Mike?
I haven't yet. Actually, it's funny, I own it, and I was always fascinated by the fact that SNK's got their name on it.
Yeah.
Which is it was just crazy, because obviously SNK are just the Neo Geo gods, and here it is, like, basically their name's on a very non-Neo Geo style game, it's not a 2D fighter or anything like that, or a Metal Slug game. It's they actually took a chance, and Infogrames is on there too.
Yeah, so Koudelka, man, check it out. Next up, another Treasure product, Treasure masterpiece, some would say, Silhouette Mirage, and from the limited time that I've played this, and I think Big Mike will agree, kind of mixed feelings on it. I mean, it seems like a deep system at work here, and some variety to the combat, but I don't know. I'm going to have to put some time in it to master the system, because it seemed kind of complex at first.
That's the feeling I got. It was overly complex. And as we discussed before, it's probably just a game, like, not bad-mouthing it just yet, because we only did spend a short amount of time with it. And, like, me, guys, I always want to give a game as much time as humanly possible. Yeah. But it almost seemed like they were trying to pack too much in, and fighting an enemy almost became a chore, because you're like, okay, what do I hit this with? What do I reflect down? I have to be facing this side? And
so many ways to approach the combat and enemy encounters, but... we'll put some more time into this and give a better opinion in the future sometime. And finally, Brave Fencer Musashi. Now, this is one that I skipped out when it first came out, and I'm really interested, looking forward to getting into this. I heard it was kind of like a comparison, like the PlayStation's answer to Zelda, is what I heard tossed around a few times. I'm not sure that it quite will match that series, but, it looks interesting. Square was on a roll back in the PlayStation days, and they made some incredible games, so I'm really happy to have this one.
And they were really taking some chances back then, too. They weren't just recycling. They really, like with Parasite Eve and the Final Fantasies and the Chrono Cross, and they really had a really good variety back then.
Oh, yeah, the sheer variety is... they'll never... Squaresoft or Square Enix will never... I don't think they'll ever be like that again.
Yeah.
On the PlayStation, Cartia. This is an Atlas strategy RPG, I believe. Don't know too much about it. I saw advertisements in the EGMs back in the day and always thought it looked interesting. I never did play it, so now I can change that.
Yeah, and it's always, as I've said many times before in my old videos, whenever you see Atlas's name on it, you just buy it.
Just buy it.
All right. Finally got myself beyond Oasis, and the scary thing about this is I almost passed this up because I thought I already had it. it's kind of the problem when you have is that many games. But then I realized, like, crap, no, I remember playing this all the time back in the day, but I went out and bought the Saturn sequel right away, but I never had this for myself. So finally got Beyond Oasis, another Yuzo soundtrack on this game. Like, that guy was just he's a rage.
Such a big fan of the Oasis series, man. And
Yeah.
you've got the manual, too. I'm missing the manual, and I've been trying to track it down. It's kind of been difficult, but...
It's 24 megs. It's crazy.
Excellent game.
Next, I got Exile for the Genesis. I have both Part 1 and Part 2 for the TurboGrafx CD, but never owned the Genesis version. And I'm, when you're one of those crazy completionists, I've got to own every version of every game that I buy. And you know what? I absolutely love that freaking artwork, too, on the cover. That is just phenomenal.
Yeah, I enjoyed that game quite a bit. I have it on the Genesis, and it's a really good game, definitely. Now, is it better than Turbo?
You know what? I have a feeling, from what I understand, is obviously the soundtrack, well, at least for the CD version, is better on the Turbo.
Yeah.
But the Genesis version will have more scrolling, and the sprites, I think, are a little bit smoother. Like, it's not as choppy looking on the Genesis. So it's kind of a give and take.
Okay, good stuff.
And really quickly here, I picked up Ni no Kuni, which I actually already owned, but I missed out on the Giant Wizards edition. So I ended up just, out of frustration, not even buying it when it came out. And then I ordered it, and when it came in through the mail, it was the Greatest Hits edition.
Boo.
Yeah, which me guys, I just will have none of. So I saw this one sitting there today, and it was only a few bucks. So I said, screw it. Greatest Hits edition is going to be donated to someone, and I'll take this one for myself.
Yeah, one of my favorite RPGs of last generation. It was a good game.
And got a few 3DO games. Got Creature Shock, which I've actually never played. I remember I was working at a game store when this came out and was always fascinated by it. I think it's because of that kind of cool box being around with the silver and the black, just kind of always caught my eye. But never got a chance to play it, so time to fire up the 3DO when I get home, I believe.
Yeah, such an excellent lineup of like science fiction, creepy games like that. There's so many on the 3DO. I just love the system to death.
I just noticed like Argonaut Software has got their name on it too. So, we always pay attention to developers as well as publishers. And Escape from Monster Manor, which I actually owned way back when I first bought my 3DO back in 1994 for $799 Canadian. As crazy as that.
Ouch.
And still don't know how to say how I afforded it. I was making minimum wage. So I actually had this back in the day, and I believe I finished it and sold it off, and always just wanted it back, just because it's kind of a timepiece. It was almost, it wasn't more, it's a first-person shooter, but it's not like Doom. It's more like Wolfenstein. There was no layers, no stairs, and the ceiling and the floor were just plain black, But it's a good sign of the times, like how first-person shooters used to be.
Yeah, I love the supernatural vibe in that.
Yeah.
Too, like the horror theme.
And the screaming in the background and stuff like that. It's cool, very cool for the time. And finally, one of my favorite things I picked up, because I can't believe I've been missing this and I'm such a Metroid fan, finally got a boxed Metroid 2 on Game Boy, and it is just a little bit of sticker removed there, but other than that, it is in absolute mint condition.
Yeah, I've been eyeing that for a while. Thankfully, I was kind of like, oh, Kevin, put that away. I knew as soon as Mike saw it, it'd be gone. But yeah, it's going to a good home, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's going to get a very very prominent spot in my game room, and I just love Metroid, and I actually really like Metroid 2, and I've surprisingly enough, I've never owned a complete copy of it, so that is now changed. Thanks for visiting here.
Yeah.
Next, I picked up Startropics, and I've been on a really big NES kick. I think in the past 6 months, I bought over 100 games for it, so I'm really happy to add this to my collection.
It's true.
I gotta say, like, that copy of Startropics I have is that is pristine freaking condition too. Like, I can't. Again, I'm a little bit jealous because my Startropics is a little on the beat up side. So
and that's one I always wanted to play. Growing up, and I never picked it up. I knew it was kind of like an RPG type game, but I'm glad he's got it because I'll watch him play it.
And next, I picked up Kingsfield for the PS2. I'm a huge fan of the Souls series, and that brought me the Kingsfield series. I really like it quite a bit. Really hard. I do like the first-person RPG mechanics, though.
And last but not least, on the PS2 as well, I just found these a few days ago at the Flea. The Growlancer games. Always wanted to have these. I think I've played Heritage of War a little bit, but it's been so long. I'm going to go back and play some of these for sure. And I was really happy to get Valkyrie Profile 2. Is it Slamera? Is that how you... Slamera? Yeah, I think it's Slameria.
Good enough.
Yeah, Valkyrie Profile, fantastic games, and I'm really looking forward to the second one.
And the best thing about the Growlancer games too is we miss out on a lot of those here in the West. Like there's so many of those games, and all part of the like even the games like the Record of Lotus Wars and those strategy RPGs. We so rarely get them translated over here, so it's good to actually finally have a few.
Yeah, beautiful artwork on the game. So really looking forward to popping these in. And lastly, on the Nintendo front, real quick, a buddy of mine at GameStop was able to hook me up with this really cool Xenoblade Chronicles 3D display, which I was happy to have. And Splatoon Amiibo Madness on the Wii U. Game is super fun, original, breath of fresh air type of thing. I'm really enjoying it. I got the Splatoon 3-pack. I've got some other Amiibos that I picked up too, but I'm going to wait and show those when I get like the full set, because that's just how I roll with the Amiibos. But I want to thank you guys for tuning in once again for another video. It was excellent to have Big Mike here. I had a great time shopping with them, hanging out, gaming. It was great having Zach here for a video once again. Yeah, Big Mike, we don't know when you're going to see...
It's crazy. I know, first of all, like for the few of you out there who are watching this who remember me, thank you very much. I've got a lot of messages every day on my Facebook page. You know, people ask me, when are you coming back, when are you coming back? So this is great, to sit in front of a camera again. And thanks again, Josh, for having me over for the weekend. Like, this is fantastic.
Put it there, bro.
You know, it's always good to visit the States from Canada. And who knows, maybe one day I'll come back on YouTube. But for now... you know, just look for me here doing these little guest appearances, which I only charge. What did I charge? $500?
It was a very reasonable.
Yeah, it's pretty. I'm pretty reasonable. Listen, and it's, you know, so my appearances, you know, they're just gonna go up in value like some of these games. So you know.
Just like rare games. So yeah, guys, blow up Big Mike on Facebook. Tell him to come back to YouTube. He's got the best game room in the business. Pressure Zach to get back on, and make some more videos. Thank you guys for watching. Games of War is nothing without you.